Let's begin. Hello, everybody from Dr. Filippo. Thank you for being on another episode of The Achiever on the Make. And today with us, we got Eric from the States. And now Eric is a great guy, he's a great chiropractor. And the reason why I have him on this call is because he's part of the same coaching program of me, and I was talking to him just before the interview, and what he said it struck me. The fact that you told, so the one thing you said, you went to see more than 40 chiropractors before studying school. That's amazing. I didn't even know what chiropractic was until my third year into chiropractic school. So, and you knew that you wanted to be a chiropractor when you were 16, you said as well.
Right.
That's awesome. Okay, so now I want to just pass the ball to you, and tell us a little bit about you. You only opened your office about 2 years ago, but you've been graduated for 4 years. So we graduated the same year. That's pretty cool. So
right,
yeah,
2 different paths, 2 different schools, and it ultimately brought us together to be here, which is pretty cool.
That's right. That's right. So tell us a little bit about you. Okay, to begin with, Eric.
Yeah. So, like you said, I graduated around the same time you did, December of 2014. It's been an interesting path because I love to travel. I knew that I wanted to travel, and actually one of the guys who was in the New Patient Avalanche when I took it was from South Africa. And when I was in school, I met him. They were looking for someone for their office, and I was like, this is perfect. I can go to South Africa, I can practice, I can learn, and I can still travel. So it didn't work out that I couldn't start at the time that they needed me to start. And because I still had school left, but then they sent me up to their friends up in Scotland. So I met them, worked for them for about 6 months. The goal was to work for there a little bit, work in South Africa for a little bit, and then come back by the time I'm 30. Instead, it was worked in Scotland for a little bit, and then I just came back to the United States instead. But yeah, so the guy who was in South Africa that I wanted to work for straight away, I was like, this is perfect. I can travel, I can work, I can experience a different culture, learn, and just meet as many people as possible. And that didn't work out. And then I came back and worked in an office here in my hometown, and that didn't work out. And I just realized that it probably is not best for me to work for anybody, just because things happen. You butt heads with people, it just doesn't work. Sometimes you can have that friendship, but you can't have that, like you're trying to make everyone better. Sometimes it's a little difficult to do that if goals and personalities don't line up. So I had a tough decision to choose between going to Hawaii and working on an island. Like, I love hot weather, I love all that stuff. I went out there, the interview was amazing. And I ended up turning that down to open my own practice, like you said, about 2 years ago. And I mean, everything that happens to you kind of brings you to the point of the decision that you made or that you make. So like you said, I job shadowed and just not interviewed with, but met anywhere between 30 and 40 chiropractors before even going to chiropractic school, which is awesome because the more people you meet, the more people you interview, the more people you get in touch with, the more you learn. And it's not necessarily just learning positive things to do, but things that might not necessarily work for your personality. Or you go to an office and you're like, man, I just don't understand how this office like flows. It just doesn't make sense to me. So you know that you don't want to work that way. So you kind of cut that out right away, which is nice. And let's see. So then I've been open about a year and 8 months, something like that. Coming up on 2 years, which is nice. The best thing that I've done was join the New Patient Avalanche, just because after that, it got my goals in line and business structure in line, and just how to go talk to people and how to do a screening, how to not necessarily sell chiropractic, but make it easier for me to talk about it to others, which I think is the toughest part, especially when you're young and new, is you don't know anything. That whole competence thing that you learn in school, it's true. Like, you just don't know what you don't know. And even when you do know it, you still don't know it. So practice makes perfect. At least practice makes better. I don't think anyone's ever perfect.
Wow, that's awesome.
But
I know exactly.
yeah, so I mean, just been trying to grow. What was that?
I said, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's fun, that's for sure. But I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm glad I opened my own. Um, you can probably attest to is very rough in the beginning, and it's still rough now, but you at least see growth, and that growth is what keeps you going. Not just helping people, but if you're not happy, then you're not going to give the best care that you can give, and you're not going to do the things in the right way. So when you see that growth, it makes you a little happier. So when you're happy, it's easier to go to work. It's easier to open that door and be like, all right, let's start the day. Let's help as many people as possible. Let's get new patients in. Let's get existing patients. Let's get reactivations. I mean, it's really easy when you're surrounded by a group of people that are like-minded
That's right.
and help you grow.
And one cool thing you said, I don't know if you were recording already, but you said when you were 16 years old, you already knew that you wanted to become a chiropractor. At 16 years old, I was a waster. I didn't even know where my house was if they put me like a mile away from my house. So how did you know at 16 what you wanted to do?
Well, like a lot of people at my school that I talk to, we always get asked why do you want to be a chiropractor? How'd you get into chiropractic? And a lot of the why is more, well, I want to help people. Okay, well, you can help people in any job, but why chiropractic? And in high school, I played tennis, and so I was playing tennis my whole life growing up. And then I really hurt my shoulder, so I went to a bunch of different doctors, and nothing seemed to help. And I had golfer's elbow on my left side. I had shoulder problems on my right side. I was getting headaches, and I tried a bunch of different things, and nothing seems to work. And then I went to a local chiropractor who is an applied kinesiologist, and little different kind of chiropractic too, because they focus on the functional medicine or aspect of things. Completely different than how I practice now, but that's what got me into chiropractic. Was at 16, I went to a chiropractor after trying a bunch of different things, and I could play tennis that weekend. And I'm like, oh, perfect, it's a tournament. This is what I want. He said I can play. He taped my shoulder. He adjusted me, put me on some supplementations. I actually had a gallbladder problem. That's no longer an issue. So when I went to him, I kind of credit him for me becoming a chiropractor. But then when I got to school, like, there's no way in hell I want to practice that way. It just doesn't fit me as a person. I thought that's what chiropractic was applied kinesiology. And then when I got to school, I realized that there's so many other ways to practice. And I realized that there are better ways for me to practice than that particular technique. So love that office. My best friend works there now. But like I said, it's just not for me. And we refer back and forth, which is nice because of that different aspect of things. So if I have a patient who comes in with an autoimmune disease or an autoimmune anything, or even thyroidism or hyperthyroid, low or hypothyroid, stuff that they like to deal with, I know that they're going to give way better treatment. So I have no problem sending my patients out for that because I know that they're going to get better care under them because of the particular conditions. And they understand that as well. So if they see someone and they're established, he's been around for like 20 years or 15, 20 years in that location. So he's established. So if they can't get anyone in that day, and they send them over to me because they know that I can get them in that day, I can get them in that week, not have to wait 2-3 weeks to get it in their office, which it's a nice relationship, especially because we don't practice anything like each other. I also don't believe that there's such thing as competition. I
Nice.
know that a lot of people, so we have probably 32 chiropractors within like a 5-mile span of on the same street that I'm on.
Wow.
And yeah, I know there's a lot because we're close. I went to Logan in St. Louis, Missouri, which is right across the river from where I live in Illinois. And then there's a school in Chicago, which is about 4.5 hours. And there's drawing a blank, Palmer in Iowa, which is about 4.5 hours. So a lot of people go to these schools and then they'll go back home and practice. So it's very saturated, but I'm a firm believer that we don't see enough people in the world for there to be competition. There's always going to be people that need your help. I always say that chiropractic can help everybody, but it's not for everybody because not everyone's going to agree with it. Not everyone's going to understand it. And sometimes that's stubbornness. Sometimes that's lack of education on us as chiropractors. But until we see 50, 60, 70, 80% of the population, and I'm not going to say there's competition. There's enough people
Yeah.
out there for everyone.
I agree. I agree. And I mean, in Bournemouth, I think is the city with most chiropractors in Europe. So,
Really.
yeah,
So you can relate.
yeah,
There's one in every
absolutely.
corner.
Yeah. I mean, it's not as busy as the States. But in like half a mile radio from where my practice is, we have 4 offices. So it's busy enough.
I can relate. I mean, they're pretty much everywhere, which is good and bad. I mean, like I was saying, I don't think there's such thing as competition, but you can always grow easier if there's less. But it's all in the mindset. I mean, if you have the mindset to want to grow and want to help as many people as possible, if your goal is money, so say your goal is to make $100,000 a year, and you hit that $100,000 a year, you're just going to coast past that, and you're going to be perfectly fine with just seeing enough to make $100,000 a year. However, if you focus on helping as many people as possible, like Ryan was saying, you can always open up your book. You can always open up your schedule to see more people. It's focused on, and I think that if everyone focused on seeing as many people as they can and help as many people as they can, then you don't have that limit. That
That's right.
limit is effortless. I mean, because then as soon as you can't see anyone, or if your care starts to slip, or if you start losing patience, you have to look in the mirror and be like, okay, well, is it because I'm not giving the care due to I'm too busy? Do I need to hire a front desk person? Do I need to hire a CA? Do I need to hire another chiropractor? There's always ways around to open up your schedule and help more people. The money's going to come if you just do the right thing. It's
That's
kind of
right.
how I do
Sometimes
my office.
sometimes also is also about value. You know, some people is like, why what am I doing wrong? Probably, you know, you're focusing on the wrong thing. You're focusing on money instead of focusing on helping people. And
Right.
as you were saying, there's you know, a lot of people that is going to listen to this, they might not know there's hundreds of techniques, more than 200 techniques in chiropractic. And you know,
Right.
there's a guy across the road that practices NSA, and is a very energetic technique compared to, I do SOT. And there's only
Nice.
another guy that does SOT in Bournemouth. So
Do you ever go to the SOT conferences?
I do, yeah. I do them the ones they do here in UK, in Windsor.
Gotcha. One of my best friends, he practices about an hour away from me, and he does SOT, and they always go to the ones in America.
Yeah.
And apparently, does the chiropractic school in Spain, is it Barcelona,
Yeah.
chiropractic college or something? Is that one of their core techniques? Is SOT? Do
I
you
think
know?
they do teach you know, SOT, they do teach Gonstead, they do teach activator. So they do a few that probably do like the basic, but yeah, so they do
Yeah.
teach the same. And the one they are opening in Scotland, probably they're gonna teach more technique. So people is gonna
Where's that going
students
to be
are gonna
at?
be more prepared.
Where's the one in Scotland going to be?
I'm not
Do you know?
sure. Don't want to say,
Hmm,
but could be Glasgow, but
doesn't matter.
don't, I'm not sure.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't affect us.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
But like I was saying, and I mean, Ryan says it all the time. The problem's not the problem, right? Like, isn't that one of the main things that we hear all over and over and over?
That's right.
So I mean, yeah, I mean, but it's true though, because if you think that the problem is one thing and you fix that, it might not be the fix all. So you have to look deeper. You have to look at the next thing. Um, it just makes sense once it's kind of explained to you.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know how school is over there, but we know nothing about business. We know nothing about having a practice. We know nothing about opening a practice. It's
No, they don't.
here's how
They
to
don't teach
adjust.
it.
Okay, cool. Thanks for the money. See you later.
Well, I would say when I finished, before finishing school, you know, it was probably 5 to 6 months before finishing. My wife and I were thinking, what do we do? Do we go somewhere else, or do I open? So I started thinking, do I open my own business, or do I just, you know, I got offered some jobs. I went to see a couple of places. It just didn't feel right. I said, and plus we had 2 kids, and we liked it down here. We're only like walking distance from the sea, so we go there every day. We walk
Nice.
there, and walking distance from, shopping center. Everything is cool. And we didn't have a car for 5 years when we moved to UK. We just walked distance from everywhere, and we liked it. And said, well, if we move somewhere, we take the whole family somewhere else. We don't like it. What do we do? And but yeah, I just sometimes you have to take the leap of faith, and things will just develop properly. If
For
you,
sure. I agree with that completely.
but
That's how,
yep.
oh, I was going to say that was when I was in Scotland. They're like, oh, where are you from? And I'm like, America. They're like, yeah, no, duh. We can tell by your accent. I'm like, okay, my bad, whatever. And then they're like, well, what's it like? And I'm like, I mean, it's boring. I mean, we don't have highlands like you guys have. I can't walk and see the ocean. I can't go to a beach. They're like, well, what's there? And I go, well, you look to your left and there's cornfields. You look to the right, there's cornfields. I mean, everywhere's cornfields. And they're like, that sounds so beautiful, just because you're not used to it. And I'm like, no, it's boring. That's all we see. But I mean, when you look at it from a different perspective, yeah, you don't know what that is. You've never seen it like I've seen it. So you probably do think that's beautiful. It's just you get used to it over time. So when you said that you guys walk to the sea every day, I'm like, yeah, that would be amazing. But to some people, that'd be boring.
Yeah,
because it gets old.
It's true. But yeah, coming from originally we're from Milan, Italy, and it's just a big city, lots of buildings. When we moved here after 5 years, he said this is when we went back for holidays, it didn't feel home anymore. It was Bournemouth was hey, this is home. Feels like this is the place, and that's why we decided to stay.
That's
And
good.
yeah, that's what it is. But let me ask you one thing, because I mean, you had your mindset when you were 16, and you went through a few things before opening your own business. What tips would you have for someone that is thinking about reaching a dream or opening their own business, or whatever goal someone has in mind? Because people that is going to listen to this might be chiropractors, might be other entrepreneurs, or might be someone that just want to go for the thing. What is it,
Right.
one or two tips that you can suggest for someone to take action they can implement right away as soon as we finish talking?
Yeah. Well, I think the most important thing that's helped me is I mean, it's going to sound cheesy and it's going to sound cliche, but you want to be different. I mean, you don't want to do what everyone else is doing. Yes, there are hundreds of ways to practice chiropractic, but ultimately, you're a chiropractor, you're looked in society as a chiropractor. Or if you want to open a restaurant, you want to open an Italian restaurant in America, you're probably going to be put into a category. So it's kind of hard to be different, but you have to find a way to be different. And I think the one thing that's helped me the most is I've stayed true to who I am. So who I am in the office is who I am outside the office. So you have to be genuine, you have to be authentic, but ultimately if you're yourself, it's going to take you way further than anything else, just because I'm a firm believer that you can spot fake people and you can spot people who aren't real. And that's one of like the number one things that I hear in my office. He's just like, or I hate hearing like, oh, I went to another office and I felt like just a number. Here I feel like family. Here I feel like I actually know you and you know me. And that's how I want it to be. I want you in my office to feel comfortable. I don't have decorations everywhere. I don't have a lot. I mean, I just started. I don't have money for it anyway. But my office is very simple, but it's who I am is who you get. So as a chiropractor, I want you to feel comfortable asking me questions, or if you don't feel right leaving an adjustment like you normally, or a visit like you normally do, I want you to feel comfortable asking me, hey, can you check that again? I know that it's normally good, but it just feels different. I want you to feel comfortable asking me that. So I would say being genuine and being authentic, just because when you are that, you can relate to way more people. Because then if you're fake and you're not yourself, it's kind of like, okay, where's the line? Am I office Eric or am I outside the office Eric? Whereas if you're yourself, you don't have to worry about that. You just be you and you give the care that you think that people need and people deserve. Don't go off of what some other kind. So if you have a patient or if you have someone coming in, like, oh, I've seen I seen this other chiropractor, he told me this. You're like, cool, that's awesome. I'm sure that what he was treating you for is what his mind or her mind was in the right thing. But I'm going to go and start over, because I'm not going to take someone else's word for it. I want you to hear it from me. I want you to see how I do it. I want you to see how I'm different. Not necessarily, the exam could be the exact same thing, but if I ask something a different way, you might relate to it and ask or tell me more about it, which might give me a better understanding of what's going on. So I would definitely say being genuine and being yourself more than anything else, just because it's easy to be yourself. Just do it. Just don't be a mean person. Don't be someone who sucks. Like, be someone who's there for others, and be someone who actually cares. Because some of these people who come in your office or come to your restaurant or come to whatever business you're going to do, they've been thrown to the curb. They've been thrown to the wayside so many times that they're just fed up with it. They just think that it's going to happen again. So when you're the one person who is genuine, you're the one person that can help them out, they're going to name their kids after you. They're just going to love everything you do, and they're going to treat you just as well as you treat them, which is what you should do. And I explain it that way because in my office, it's, yes, I'm a chiropractor and I adjust the spine and all that stuff. I don't really do any modalities or anything like that, but I specialize in treating TMJ, or TMJD and TMD. So that in its own entity is something that 14 to 18% of the population in America deals with. That's 14 to 18 people, or percent of the population, that are just rotated between dentists, orthodontists, oral surgeons, and then it's just like a vicious circle, because no one knows that chiropractors can help with that. In some states, you can't adjust the actual jaw or anything. You can only adjust the spine, but in Illinois, I'm fine. But when you're the one person that can help them out and get them out of pain and get them to where they can eat a cheeseburger for the first time in 3 years, or I had one lady who, she came in and she's like, it hurts to kiss my kids goodnight. And I'm like, I mean, I don't have kids, but you can relate. I mean, how miserable would that be if you can't tuck your kids in or show them love and show them affection? It would suck.
Yeah.
So when you're the person that gives them that life back, and you do it in a way that no one else has, then that's a win beyond any money that you can ever get from that patient, just because they're forever grateful for helping you get their life back.
That's pretty cool.
You do it in the right way.
That is cool stuff. And I think be authentic. I'm just reading a book I was telling you before about from Blair Singer, the Little Voice Mastery, and he actually talks about being yourself, being genuine, because a lot of people is scared, is putting up mask and they don't want to show who they are. But I've been lately showing myself more, and you know what? I'm just going to share this with you. Yesterday, I got a message from a client, because someone saw an interview, because I'm emailing them to my clients, and in one interview, I mentioned, I think it was a quick phrase that I said I live in a 1-bedroom flat with 3 kids, and my wife is pregnant, so with the 4th one, and I got a message from this client of mine. I've been seeing this client since I was at college, so she's still coming regularly, and she was amazed of the fact that I'm living in a 1-bedroom flat with all these kids. She said, "How can you do it?" And she was like, "You're always so happy." Now I don't want to burst. I don't want to say too much, but she was amazed of how natural and how I was able to be myself and be vulnerable. Because I think when you're vulnerable, people appreciate it a lot.
And it's relatable.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're vulnerable, it's going to be easier for them to be vulnerable, which is awesome, because that's how you really make that connection. And it's not necessarily, if you don't make a connection, you can't help someone, but it's so much easier so chiropractic, you have the art, the science, and the philosophy, and you have the 3 stresses: the physical, chemical, and mental. I mean, my office is Triforce. I mean, 3 is everywhere. So 3 things in chiropractic, 3 types of stressors. This is my 3rd office. But what I'm getting at is the psychological component of that connection is way undervalued. I mean, sometimes the the office where I was at before, I had a patient whose mom died, and she just wasn't. And I'm like, her mom died a year and a half, like before this, but before coming to see me. So I was still in school when that was going on. But when I'm like, why aren't you getting better? What am I doing wrong? Because I always think it's me. I'm the most impatient person when it comes to care, because I'm like, why can I not get you better how I want you to go? And she just started. She just broke down because it was like some anniversary. It might have been her mom's birthday or something that day when she was in, and she just started crying. And I go, well, what's going on? Well, my mom died, da 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 da. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, I'm sorry to hear that. And when was it? And she told me more. And I was like, well, have you ever talked to anyone about it? She's like, no. And I go, why don't you go find a therapist and go talk it out? And then, because that's out. I mean, you hear stuff all the time. We're psychologists that don't get paid. I mean, we're chiropractors, but we're also psychologists. So we hear everything, but that's out of our realm to help with. So if you send them to someone who understands and can help them through that. 2 months after seeing a therapist, she came in, she was getting adjusted. She's like, this is the best I've ever felt in my entire life. And I'm like, okay, it wasn't the physical and chemical aspect of things. It was that psychological, that mental stuff that was holding her back. And no, I mean, a lot of chiropractors wouldn't even address that, wouldn't even figure that aspect out. But when you're that person that can relate, like you're saying, you were vulnerable. She was vulnerable. I had to show that I was vulnerable at some point. Otherwise, she wouldn't confide that information in me, which ultimately was the thing that was holding her back. And now she's killing it. Now she comes in every 2 weeks and she's just feeling fantastic all the time and not have to worry about anything, which is what you ultimately want for your patients. You want them to feel better, and you want them to be able to function at the optimal level so that they can do the things they want to do as long as they can.
That's right. Listen, Eric, I'm mindful of your time. It's been an amazing interview. I was taking notes. I learned some stuff. So
Sure, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, super. You're super welcome. So one more thing I would ask you is, what if someone wants to get in touch with you? What's the best way to do it?
Facebook. You can find. I mean, I'm a millennial. I have my phone on me at all times.
Okay.
Facebook's the easiest, just because I have a notification. You can call my office, but ultimately, a lot of my patients are friends with me on Facebook, and I prefer that because then I'm the only one in my office. So I'm front desk person, I'm chiropractor, I'm office manager, I'm everything. So if I'm with a patient and they need my time and I can't get to the phone, I'd rather you leave me a text message or a message on Facebook or Instagram or something like that, because I'll see it when I'm done and I'll get back to you right away. It's just easier than going back and forth from a phone.
Awesome.
So I would say Facebook or social media, just add me and then talk to me.
Cool. All right. That's great. That's great. Well, I suggest you guys get in touch with Eric. He's an amazing and genuine person. I can feel that. And so thank you so much again. And I will see you again soon. So thank you very much.
No problem. It's a pleasure. Thanks, Filippo.
Cheers.
Have a good night.